My parents gave my college fund to my brother, saying, "A man's education is more important." Years later, they begged me to support them, crying, "We have nothing left." I smiled and replied, "Ask your son Await, he spent it all." I grew up in a modest neighborhood in Chicago. My parents, both first-generation immigrants, held traditional beliefs. They always emphasized the importance of family and the roles each of us was expected to play. My younger brother, Daniel, was their pride and joy, a bright boy with dreams of becoming a doctor. I, as the eldest daughter, was expected to support and nurture, but not necessarily to aspire beyond that. From a young age, I was fascinated by how things worked. I would spend hours dismantling household gadgets, much to my mother's frustration, only to put them back together again. My teachers noticed my aptitude and encouraged me to pursue a career in engineering. When I shared this dream with my parents, their response was disheartening. "Engineering is a demanding field," my father said one evening. "It's not suitable for a young woman. You'll marry and have a family to care for." "But Papa," I protested, "I can do both. Many women balance careers and families." My mother sighed, setting aside her knitting. "Your brother needs our support to become a doctor. A man's education is more important. He will be the breadwinner for his family." I was crushed. I had always assumed that the savings they mentioned were for both Daniel and me. It became clear that the funds were reserved solely for his education. Determined not to let this setback derail my ambitions, I took matters into my own hands. I applied for scholarships, took on part-time jobs, and tutored neighborhood kids in math and science. Nights were spent poring over textbooks, and weekends were dedicated to work. It was exhausting, but every step brought me closer to my goal. Daniel, meanwhile, attended a prestigious university in New York, fully funded by our parents. They were immensely proud, often boasting to friends and family about their son's journey to becoming a doctor. I couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy, but I buried it deep, focusing on my own path. Years passed. I graduated with honors in electrical engineering from the University of Illinois. Job offers came swiftly, and I secured a position with a renowned tech firm in Silicon Valley. The move was daunting, but I was eager to start this new chapter. Daniel completed his medical degree and began his residency. However, the pressures of the medical field weighed heavily on him. He struggled with the long hours and the emotional toll of patient care. Our parents continued to support him financially, believing that once he established his practice, he would repay their investment. One evening, while I was preparing for a major project presentation, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Hello, Mama," I greeted, balancing the phone between my shoulder and ear as I typed an email. "Dear, we need to talk," she began, her voice trembling. I paused, sensing the gravity in her tone. "What's wrong?" "It's about Daniel," she said, taking a deep breath. He's decided to leave his residency." I was taken aback. "Leave? But he's so close to finishing." "He says it's too much for him," she explained. "The stress, the pressure. He can't handle it." I sat down, absorbing the news. "So, what does he plan to do now?" "He's not sure," she admitted. "And, well, we've exhausted our savings supporting him through medical school. We were hoping you could help us out, just until we get back on our feet." I closed my eyes, the weight of her words pressing down on me. After all these years, after being told there were no funds for my education because a man's education was more important, they were now turning to me for financial support. "Mama," I began carefully, "I understand you're in a tough spot. But remember when I wanted to go to college? You said there were no funds available because Daniel's education took precedence." There was silence on the other end. "I managed on my own," I continued. "I worked multiple jobs, secured scholarships, and made my way without any financial help from you and Papa." "We know, and we're proud of you," she interjected. "But family helps family." I took a deep breath, choosing my words. I believe Daniel should take responsibility for his choices. Perhaps it's time he finds his own path and supports himself. "But we have nothing left," she whispered, tears evident in her voice. I felt a pang of guilt but stood firm. "I'm sorry, Mama. I can't help this time." The conversation ended, leaving a chasm between us. I knew my decision would strain our relationship, but I couldn't ignore the years of struggle I endured alone. In the months that followed, Daniel took up a teaching position at a local community college, sharing his medical knowledge with aspiring students. It wasn't the prestigious career our parents had envisioned, but he found fulfillment in it. Our parents adjusted their lifestyle, learning to live within their means. As for me, I continued to thrive in my career, breaking barriers and proving that a woman's education is just as important. The journey had been arduous, but it taught me resilience and the value of self-reliance. Family dynamics are complex, and while love binds us, it's essential to recognize and address inequalities. My hope is that future generations won't have to choose between their dreams and familial expectations, and that every individual's aspirations are valued equally, regardless of gender. 3 months after that phone call, my parents showed up unannounced at my doorstep in Palo Alto. I'd just gotten home from work. My job was demanding. 12-hour days, constant pressure, but it paid well, and I had carved out a quiet, independent life for myself. Seeing them there, on my porch with 2 suitcases and weary eyes, sent a shock through my chest. My mother tried to smile like it was some casual visit. "We thought we'd come spend some time with you. Things in Chicago are difficult." They didn't ask. They just walked in. That night, over reheated leftovers, they explained everything. They'd sold the house. Daniel wasn't sending money. He said he couldn't afford to help them. They'd assumed he'd eventually support them, but now they had nothing. They figured they'd stay a little while until they got back on their feet. I didn't say much. I just nodded. I watched my father spoon rice into his mouth with shaky hands. My mother stared at her plate like it might give her an answer. They didn't know that I still remembered every time they told me no. Every time I asked for help and they said Daniel needed it more. They didn't know that I remembered skipping meals so I could pay for books, or crying in the shower because the pressure of working 2 jobs and studying full-time was too much. They thought time erased that. It hadn't. I gave them the guest room. I figured a week or 2. Maybe they'd figure something out. They didn't. They settled in like they were staying forever. My mom started organizing my kitchen without asking. My dad took over the living room during the day, watching TV at full volume while I tried to work in my home office. I started locking my bedroom door just to get some peace. 2 weeks became a month. A month became 3. I asked them about plans. They got defensive. My dad said, "You owe us. We gave everything to Daniel for the family's future. You're part of that." I said, "You didn't give anything to me." He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You didn't need it. You always managed." That hit harder than I expected. It wasn't a compliment. It was a justification. I started spending more time at the office. I'd get there early, stay late. I joined new projects just to avoid going home. I even thought about renting an apartment nearby just to sleep in silence. Then Daniel called. I hadn't heard from him since my parents arrived. "Hey," he said casually, like nothing had happened. "Mom and Dad with you?" I said yes, tight-lipped. He sighed. "They keep calling me. I told them I can't help. They're your problem now." My jaw clenched. "They're not a problem. They're just lost." He laughed. "Same difference. Anyway, listen, since you're handling things, I wanted to ask. I'm thinking about going back to school for psychology. Mind sending a little money my way?" I didn't answer. "Hello? You want me to pay for your second career?" I said slowly. "Just a loan," he said quickly. "You've got a great job, right? This could really turn things around for me. You've already had your turn." He didn't reply right away. Then he muttered, "Wow. I see how it is. You saw how it was when I was 18, I snapped. This is just the result." I hung up. That night, my parents overheard me on the phone. My mother came to my room. She was crying, holding one of the old photo albums she'd brought from Chicago. "I didn't know," she said. "I didn't understand what you went through. I didn't say anything. You always looked so strong," she whispered. I had to be. My father stood behind her, silent. He looked older than ever. Smaller, like the years finally caught up to him. They started to back off after that. My mom stopped reorganizing things. My dad began asking before touching anything. But they were still there. Still sleeping in my house. Still waking up under my roof, in a home they never helped build. The thing is, it wasn't just about money anymore. It was about every moment I'd had to survive alone, while they handed Daniel the world and told me I was strong enough to do without. It was about how no one said sorry until they needed something. But this isn't over. Because Daniel? He's not done. And neither am I. A few weeks after that phone call with Daniel, I got a certified letter at work. At first, I thought it was some legal document related to a patent I was working on. I signed for it, opened it in my office, and nearly dropped it when I read what it was. Daniel had taken out a private student loan in my name. From 5 years ago. For $28,000. It had gone unpaid long enough to go to collections, and now they were coming after me. I sat there, frozen, reading the letter over and over again. I checked the documents. My name was on everything: application, signature, social. I hadn't signed any of it. But someone had. I called the number listed on the notice. They confirmed everything. Yes, ma'am. The loan was approved 5 years ago. Online application. Funds were disbursed directly to a university bursar's office. Do you believe this was a case of fraud? I couldn't speak. That night, I confronted my parents. They didn't deny it. My mother sobbed, hands shaking. He said he just needed a little more to finish school. We didn't have the credit. He said it was only temporary. He said he'd pay it off before it caught up with you. My dad just stared at the floor. He looked ashamed, but he didn't say a word. You let him use my name. My credit, I said quietly. And you never told me. We thought he would pay it back, my mother repeated. We didn't think, you never thought, I snapped. I walked out of the room before I said something worse. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Then I called Daniel. He answered like nothing had happened. Hey, what's up? You used my name. You took out a loan in my name. Silence. Then, I didn't think it would come back to you. I was desperate. I laughed bitterly. You were desperate? You were in med school, fully funded. You wanted more? For what? He didn't answer. You committed fraud, I said. You forged my signature. You used my credit. You could have destroyed everything I built. I was going through a lot, he said quietly. It was a rough time, so was mine. I didn't commit crimes to get through it. I hung up. The lawyer said I could press charges. I had the option to file a police report, which would likely lead to a criminal investigation. It was my legal right. But it would also destroy Daniel's life. It would go on his record. He'd lose his teaching license. Probably wouldn't be employable in anything with a background check. My parents begged me not to. My mom dropped to her knees. Please. He's still your brother. My dad said, he made a mistake, but he's family. Family. That word hit differently now. Family was what you claimed when you needed something. Family was the card they pulled when consequences were closing in. I didn't reply to them. I just walked out again. In the following days, Daniel started emailing me. Long, rambling emails full of excuses. Apologies. Promises to fix it. He offered to take a second job, said he'd send monthly payments, said he just needed time. He even wrote that he didn't know what else to do. He'd thought about ending things if I pressed charges. That made me pause. Not because I believed him, but because it was manipulative. He knew I wouldn't want that on my conscience. He was playing me. I printed everything. Every message. Every email. Every voicemail. Then I sent them to my lawyer. At work, my boss called me in for a surprise meeting. I assumed it was about a client or a deliverable. It wasn't. Someone's been calling the front desk asking for you by name. He says he's your brother. I clenched my fists. I'll handle it. Security escorted him out the next day when he showed up outside the building. When I got home that evening, my parents were waiting in the living room. He lost his job, my mother said. He's not okay. My dad stood up. You're punishing all of us. No, I said, voice calm. You punished me years ago. I'm just not protecting you from the results anymore. That night, I locked my bedroom door and started sleeping with my phone on silent. But I wasn't sleeping much. because I knew this wasn't the end. People like Daniel don't just stop when they hit a wall. They find a crack and try to crawl through it. And my parents? They weren't just bystanders. They were accomplices, even if they wouldn't admit it. The question wasn't whether something else would happen. It was when. It didn't take long. A week later, I came home to find my laptop missing. It wasn't just gone, it had been replaced by a cheap old one I hadn't used in years. My real one, the one with all my work, private files, and access to company systems, had vanished. I checked everything else. Nothing else was stolen. Just the laptop. The front door hadn't been forced open. There were no signs of a break-in. I knew who did it. My parents were sitting on the couch like nothing happened. I walked straight past them into the guest room. Daniel's old duffel bag was there. I opened it. Empty. I stood in the hallway and asked them plainly, "Did you let him in?" My mother flinched. My father didn't answer. "Did you give him my keys?" My mother's voice was a whisper. "He said he just wanted to talk to you. He said he was going to surprise you with something." "We didn't know you did know," I said. "You knew exactly what kind of person he was." I called the police. They found Daniel 2 days later. He had already sold the laptop for a few $100. Said he needed it for rent. The pawn shop gave it up fast. He used his real ID. I got my laptop back, though it had been wiped clean. I pressed charges. This time, I didn't waver. Daniel was arrested. Fraud. Theft. Violation of privacy. Because of the past loan, the stolen property, and the forged documents, it was more than enough to push it into felony territory. My parents begged. They cried. My mother even collapsed in the courthouse hallway. My father called me heartless. I didn't care anymore. I gave them 1 week to move out of my house. I bought them bus tickets back to Illinois. I didn't pay for a hotel. I didn't help them pack. I didn't ask if they had anywhere to go. They made their choices. I changed all my locks, got a home security system, and gave HR at my job full documentation of what happened. Daniel eventually took a plea deal. No prison time, but community service, restitution, and a record that would follow him forever. He lost his job at the college for good. And me? I kept climbing. I got a promotion 6 months later. Bigger office. More money. More control. I bought a new place, nicer, quieter. No one else's name was on the deed. No family photos on the walls. Just mine. I did feel something once it was all over. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't relief. It was emptiness. Because here's the truth people don't like to admit. Revenge feels good. But it doesn't heal you. It just closes the door. The people who gave me nothing ended up with nothing. The brother who stole my future lost his own. And me? I got everything I worked for. But I also carry the weight of every lonely step I had to take to get it. Not because I was wrong, but because no one was ever right for me. Let them ask for help. Let them cry. Let them beg. I don't answer anymore.